Hello, everyone. Welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Rahul Bajaj and Shitiz Ruhail, who are the founders of Digital Darwin, which is a deep tech platform revolutionizing health and fitness through AI-powered solutions, computer vision, and integrated analytics. Hi, Rahul and Shitiz. Welcome to the show.
Hi,
Hey
Priya,
Priya.
and thank you so much for having us on your show. Wonderful show, and we are delighted to be a part of it.
Yep, the pleasure is all ours.
Likewise, I would request both of you to go one by one and introduce yourself to our audience, a little bit about your background, and then we'll start talking about the venture.
Sure, Shethit sir, let's start with you,
Sure. Hey everyone,
the
my name
younger
is
and the
Shitiz.
more energetic one.
Energetic, don't know. Younger, yeah, I have a birth certificate to prove that. But hey everyone, Shitiz Ruhail this side. Yeah, so I've had majority of my career in healthcare space. I used to be working with Tech Mahindra as head of strategy for healthcare services vertical. Post that, I was in US as the head of strategy for Tech Mahindra North Americas. Before that, I'd been working with Continental Hospitals as de facto head of multiple departments because when the hospital was just getting birthed up, I was there at the ground zero. So did that. I'm an alum of ISB, Indian School of Business, 2013. And yeah, it's been a great journey so far, and look forward to more things to come.
Awesome. Rahul, over to you.
I've been in the technology space, spent around 22, 23 years before Digital Darwin was born. Was the chief digital officer for Spice Telecom, DigiSpice, and held leadership roles in technology with Fortis Healthcare Limited as head of digital services, head of strategy for Birlasoft Limited, and Fujitsu Corporation before that. I'm an alum of BITS Pilani and FMS Delhi University. Uh, we've been working in the digital space, in healthcare space, and that's where Digital Darwin was born. My relationship with sports had been that I became an amateur runner doing marathon runs.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I'm an amateur photographer. Whenever I can get some time off the city, that's what my passion is. And yeah, one day probably I would want to get off technology and just focus behind the camera.
Interesting. Uh, I would request any of you to, throw some light on what is Darwin, what is the Digital Darwin? How did you come up with the name of the venture, Digital Darwin? Because I think Darwin comes from Charles Darwin, who gave the theory of evolution, and a lot of companies who associate this name are doing something around healthcare or evolution or anything around that. So, how did you come up with the name and what does it do?
Wonderful. I'll start and I'll invite Kshitij to join in. So the reason for Darwin was that we wanted to talk or wanted to work around creating a digital Darwinism where we were to work with the cutting edge technology, keep evolving, keep moving, uh, tell people or advise people, work with people on the ever evolutionizing artificial intelligence technology and advocating that if people are not changing, if they are still living in their old technology era, they'll be extinct, right? We've been looking at how even the large auto companies today are dying. Volkswagen, Nissan, and the new age organizations like Tesla, BYD, they are taking their place. In fact, these are the largest companies now, replacing the older ones. So
Mm-hmm.
That was the theory behind digital Darwinism, that keep evolving, keep running on the new technology space. We are gonna there to help you. We'll also keep doing that. We'll evolve, and if people are not keeping pace, then it will be a faster death as compared to what the Darwin
Mm-hmm.
uh, mentioned in his theory.
Got it.
Yeah.
Can you
That-
walk us through like a real world example of how your clients are using your platform and what sort of impact it is making to their lives?
Sure.
Shall
Yeah, sure. So, all right. So, picking up from where Rahul, spoke of, and, adding your question to that, uh, basically, just like evolution, uh, every human being, like you, me, everybody, like we all go through our own evolution through the journey of life.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, we got to keep on trying to unlock a potential, right? And this potential could be sports based, could be intellectual based, could be academia, could be anything, right? So we essentially, where we come in is unlocking the human potential when it comes to physical performance, right? So for example, one of our product is speed.ai. Now what that is essentially an athlete management system, right? So when an athlete is being trained, there are multiple people who work with the athlete to ensure optimum performance on the field, and working towards that end goal of the medal or the podium finish or whatever, right? Now in that entire journey, there are going to be multiple stakeholders involved. So the coaches are going to be there, the gyms trainers, SNC coaches, physical fitness, your nutritionist, your physiotherapist, your analyst, your various other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Administrators, counselors, mental health counselors, all of them, doctors, nurses, all of them are going to work together on that one single athlete to ensure their optimum performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because every small iota of change gets you that much more closer to the podium finish, right?
Right.
And that's exactly where the unlocking of human potential happens, right? So in that journey, where we come in is, number one, obviously all of the data has to be ingested on a single platform so that everybody can see what the other guy is doing, so that all of your efforts are in tandem, right? You don't want three guys going north and two guys going south and the remainder going east, and then what's happening nobody knows, right? So
Mm.
that creation of collaboration has to happen, and that happens usually through data, right? In every industry you have ERP systems, in every other systems, that's confluence of data in a single layer where collaboration and coordination can happen. So that's the first thing that the platform does. Now beyond that is where the interesting part comes in, right? So understanding from the athlete how he or she is feeling on that particular day, and accordingly changing or tweaking the calendar of training, the calendar of whatever therapies are being done. uh, Looking at the biomed reports, the lab reports of blood sample reports, and then tweaking the nutrition for that. So
Mm-hmm.
all of those things is second layer. And then the third layer is the analytics that happens on top of all the data and the correlated actions that have been taken. That analytics gives you a sort of a perspective into the future, that are you heading in the right direction or you're off the target, right? And that this entire thing crushed into one system is what our platform speed.ai is, for performance enhancement and improvement of athletes. And that is exactly how, staying true to a name, Digital Darwin, the company name, the product name is speed.ai. uh, Staying true to a company name, we are helping unlock the human potential in the field of sports, right? And we're adding some new crazy things to it. So a lot of AI is utilized, not the cool factor AI that everybody knows right now, which is LLM, but there are lots of other flavors of LLM, AI, right? So all
Mm-hmm.
those flavors of AI are already being utilized in this tech stack of a product. So computer vision, data ingestion, data cleaning, all the stuff that is already happening. But now we are adding the next layer of AI, which essentially, in our mind, the big value of LLM is being able to do workflows in place of a human, to make humans understanding of data that much more better. So that's where we're adding these analysts, these assistant nutritionists. So for example, just to give you a mental picture, what could happen is, a coach wants to know how my athlete's performance has improved over last 3 months, 6 months, XYZ period, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
what they would usually do is download an Excel sheet, look at all the data points and all that analyst stuff of pivoting the table and drawing the charts and BI stuff, right? But that's time consuming. That's not coach's real job. The coach's real job is to see where you're heading and to make the incremental decisions. It's not his job to become an analyst, but
Mm-hmm.
we want him to become an analyst because that's how you serve his purpose.
Okay.
What we are doing at speed.ai is different. What we are doing is, don't be an analyst. You just ask a layer. So there's a layer of AI on top of the data lake now. You just ask the AI whatever question you have. It'll give you a natural language response with the required data table for that question.
Mm-hmm.
Utilize that response to make your decision. So analysis is done by the AI. You don't have to spend time on that. You don't have to spend time on doing second guessing yourself. So for example, the athlete is short of is low on iron. What would the best thing to do? Looking at other parameters, should I give a supplement? Should I give beetroot juice or whatever, right? Now these are
Mm-hmm.
questions which a nutritionist could have. Now, if he starts looking at all the data parameter and then making the focus decision, it's going to take him a long time.
Yeah.
And that's time lost on the field, right? Because the performance is required this season, not next or next to next. So what can you do? So what we have done is the AI essentially picks up all the data of the athlete, sees through everything, brings it back together. And these are, very extremely fine-tuned for the purpose LLMs. So they bring all the data together in the required format and form, create the intelligence out of it, short of making the decision, give you the intelligence. And now,
Mm.
basis that intelligence, you can make a quick decision
Okay.
and save time and get better performance every day, every night, every evening, every day. Right? So it keeps on evolving. And that's exactly where digital Darwin comes in.
Got
Evolution, right? Transforming the human potential.
it. Got it. You spoke about the flavors of AI. I think AI has become a buzzword, and
Yeah.
everything, everybody is associating the word of AI to them, because they just want to follow the trend. They don't want to miss out on the bus as well. But as you rightly mentioned, that there is some sort of, just for the sake of AI, people say AI, but there are other flavors to it. Nowadays, LLM is the commonly used reference for AI, but there are other flavors like the machine vision and the other things that you mentioned. So, can you explain what other flavors that you have utilized in your platform, and what all data points are you capturing, how they are getting processed, and what sort of AI models that you have in your platform that is, doing different things, different sort of processing, and coming up with different sort of insights.
Sure, sure. So I'll start in Rahul. So please do add because he is the guy who's built all of this, right? But yeah, so and you rightly said, right, Pia? Today, Gen AI, generative artificial intelligence, large language models, small language models, this is what people know. The mango people, Aam Janta,
Hmm.
they think that is the AI and everything else is, not there. But honestly, AI has been in this world for eons now, decades plus, right? It's only in 2017 that the transformer technology came in via Google, and that's where the LLMs started becoming, the language processing started becoming possible because instead of going word by word, you could go through the entire sentence in one and derive the intelligence. But these models were created for language ingestion and language output, right? There are a lot of elements which happen. So for example, a lot of your listeners would have heard the word multimodal, right?
Hmm.
Multimodal is nothing but ability to ingest video, audio, language, text language, all of these things, right? Now, when it comes to video, it's not an LLM which is doing the key part of analysis of the video. That is a computer vision model, right?
Hmm.
Which has been there again for eons, which is being trained for uh, object identification or looking for something within that thing. Uh, Actually, if the listeners are gamers, they would quickly understand this. uh, in all your first person shooter games, when you're flying the drone and suddenly a cross or an arrow or a crossbow comes on a enemy, that this is the enemy that's identified. What is that? If that were happening in real life on battlefield, that's computer vision detection, right? So you detected
Hmm.
the enemy, right? Now, that kind of a technology has been there for quite some time. So all of these are other parts of technology. There are data side technologies which are there, which are into the folds of AI, all of which have to be utilized for different purposes. While LLM could be the front end service layer, uh, being made capable of doing specific tasks with fine tuning, with short training, but a lot of the back end work still has to be done by other algorithmic models, which could be a part of your AI stream or machine learning stream or whatever, right? Rahul sir?
So, Priya, you rightly mentioned that the AI as a buzzword is being used in a lot of things, and the understanding of what exactly AI is or how AI is being used is associated generally with every few years with something else,
Hmm.
because these cycles keep coming. These are hype cycles. Something becomes really big, and then it becomes a norm and it reduces, and something new comes up, and then it becomes a norm.
Right.
Primarily, though, if we look at how artificial intelligence works, at the core of it has been what we've been calling it as a machine learning, right?
Hmm.
How the algorithms and how things learn and how they can differentiate. Now, from machine learning, the evolved state came to deep learning.
Mm-hmm.
And we started talking about how the deep learning algorithms are working, because these are much more complex. These could also be self-learning because it's a loop. Machine learning used or needed a human to give an input, and there could be some memory which could be created through a kind of a structure which our neurons follow. Deep learning, just like a human brain, could also give a loop to itself, saying that this is something new knowledge and that has not been learned earlier, and hence it will loop into itself and create another layer of learning. Right? And
Mm-hmm.
then there would be multiple layers for convoluted neural networks, etc., CNN, DNN, etc. All those particular things would come. So the evolution has been happening, and the evolution of AI has also been happening as we have been evolving on the computational part. Uh, of course, artificial intelligence had been there much earlier, before even the machine learning came in, but because the computational resources were so expensive that it was never considered to be something which could bring in, or which could come in, or which could be used commercially.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that transformed in the 2000s and 2000, post 2010, and then computer vision came in,
Mm-hmm.
where maybe the information was being given as images and you could decipher things. There could be object tracking, object identification, and all that information could happen. Similarly, of course, now we are talking about the language models, and it's all because Chat GPT, when it came in 2021, 22, in a big way, in the commercial way. Of course, Chat GPT was there since 2017, probably 16, 17 timeframe. The imagination of people was caught with that particular thing, that how close to a human this could be, and how the general intelligence, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
or GAI, general artificial intelligence, is coming very, very close to whatever has been predicted, that one day the machines would work on their own. And this is becoming much of a reality. So the evolution has been happening towards that particular side. The key is that the how this particular technology is actually being used to solve real world problems. There have been huge amounts of solutions that have been created around, for example, computer vision. All our speed cameras, even the parking sensors, where the parking is actually looking at your number plate and then the entries are granted and all of that is computer vision, right? Which is
Right.
the most basic use.
Mm-hmm.
To the military grade, where the missiles and even the even the aircraft or the fighter aircrafts, etc., they hone on to a particular target with the camera vision, right? Where they can not only, it's not only the laser or geo coordinates, but then a check is also done if that particular target is the same as what exactly was fed into it.
Mm-hmm.
Drone technology, so much is being used on in the agricultural area now, and then of course the drone navigation, etc., all going towards the computer vision side. How it also works for us, what we've been doing with these sets of technologies, primarily in our sports space or health space, is where we are marrying the computer vision part
Mm-hmm.
along with the large language models and the traditional machine learning. Uh, for certain things, for example, now let's just transform ourselves and get into looking at how each sports person trains. Each sport person or each sports requires certain training drills. These particular training drills can be divided into skill training as well as strengthening and conditioning, right? Because each sport requires strengthening and conditioning of muscles. Now,
Mm-hmm.
these strengthening and conditioning, which is in short called as SNC, requires certain exercises to be done, which is very similar to the CrossFit training that we do in gyms,
Mm-hmm.
but for specific muscle activations. And when the athletes are doing this particular training, if they are not doing it correctly, then they can injure themselves. Right?
Okay.
So what we bring in computer vision is that when these particular athletes are following certain video instructions or instructions from their coaches, when they are doing these particular exercises, their form factor is checked with camera, and in real time they are given feedback as to where they are going wrong, so that that can be corrected. Right? The advantage that we see and what we are trying to do here with this particular part is that elite athletes have their own coaches.
Mm-hmm.
They have one-to-one attention of the coaches when they are doing this particular thing. But as you go down and this thing goes to, let's say, to state level or district level centers where athletes are training, athletes there don't have access to these coaches, right? So there will be 50, 100 athletes who will be training in a training center, and they'll only be given a training plan. Now,
Okay.
how do they make sure that they're training in the right way, right? So our computer vision models help them in training in the right way. Similarly, uh, when the athletes are training for skill training, then what is their form factor? For example, in archery, when an archer pulls the bow,
Mm-hmm.
the position of the elbow and the position of the shoulder is very important, because that particular release will depend on how the energy will flow and what will be the direction of that particular bow. And hence, when the athlete is in that particular form, when they are about to release the bow, a picture of that particular one, camera pointed on that particular athlete in two to three different directions, the athlete in that form, the computer vision that we have trained can tell that this is where the discrepancy is. If
Mm-hmm.
there can be a slight alignment, then the result will be much better. Right?
Okay.
Same way, it goes for multiple different sports because different forms are required for different ones. Same for shooting, for other skill areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when it goes to the language models that we are working with, a huge amount of data that is collected through variables, through their daily training, their load factor on the body, their nutritional values, all of that goes into a particular data lake or a data mart, and the language models take that particular data, just
Mhm.
like any other analyst, are trained, are intelligent enough to see where the correlation between the data is, and assist the coaches in understanding and giving a real world picture as to where this particular athlete is having a deficiency, where things can be corrected, and how it can help them in redesigning their training plans, right?
Got it.
So this goes in for the elite athletes. But our challenge, what we are looking for really, is how this whole thing can be democratized.
Mm.
Uh, if India is to become a sporting power or a superpower in sports, get much more podium finishes than we currently do, which is, of course, we all recognize is far under par our potential. Then all this technology, all this facility has to percolate downwards,
Okay.
and the only way that this whole thing or the skill can go to people in the district centers or the state centers is by technology, because we've already proven that the way artificial intelligence and technology helped us create the identity stack with Aadhaar, right?
Mhm.
And then it also helped us in creating the financial stack with UPI. Right? It is the same way in which our health stack will be built, and that same way we will be able to jump the divide of our infrastructure, which is there is there is the gap of the infrastructure that we and the Western world has in sports and health area, can only be met with a technology inception, and that's what we are working on.
Understood. Thanks for explaining this so nicely. I think almost I read it on the website. Almost 1,000 plus athletes are already using the platform. So, can you share any real life success stories where athletes could get very insightful information from the platform and made significant changes to their performances? And
So
yeah.
actually, the number, so we are in the process of updating the website. The number is way beyond 1,000 now. We have close to 3,000 athletes. These are elite athletes. These are athletes who have, represented the country or are representing the country and going to in games like Asiad, Commonwealth, Olympics, and all that stuff. So these are the 3,000 plus elite athletes of the India, which are there on the platform, who are being, for whom the platform is being leveraged for performance enhancement and training and everything. Uh, as far as example is concerned, I know Rahul Bhai has just the right example in his mind. So Rahul Bhai, please.
So we are working with Sports Authority of India across the centers in India, which includes Patiala, where a lot of athletics is happening. Sonipat, which is the heart of wrestling and weightlifting. Of course, Patiala also of weightlifting. Gandhinagar, where all our para athletes come from, and Dr. Karni Singh shooting range, where all our shooters come from. And you know that shooters have been giving us the maximum number of goals, shooters and wrestlers have been giving us the maximum number of goals.
Yes.
So we are working with these particular centers, who are then working with their elite athletes, including the athletes who have represented India in the current Paris Olympics and are representing India in the various different international forums.
Mm.
And what we are really proud of is our association with the center which is the center of excellence for Paralympics,
Mhm.
and all Paralympic sports are something which are managed by Gandhinagar Center, and most of these particular athletes are covered on our platform. Uh, what we are though working towards, aiming towards, is because, as I said, that the potential is something which we really need to cover. Is that it's public knowledge. We all know that India aspires to host the 2036 Olympics in Ahmedabad, and if that needs to be done, we need to have our hold or our space
Mm.
in the sporting world. And that's where 2028 and 2032 majorly are the milestones that we have to achieve. And hence, we are working with some of these teams who work in the background,
Mhm.
and look at how 2032 can be a real cornerstone
Mm.
for the sports part for India, and we could put our flag on that particular pedestal where we are seen as a sporting superpower by 2032.
Got it. Can you comment on the go-to-market strategy that you have been using? Like the way I see it, beyond the elite athletes, the mid-market athletes cannot really afford this kind of sophisticated solution. So whom do you send the invoice to, and who are the people who pay for your solution? Can you comment on that?
Sure, Shitija.
Sure. So, and you're right on that, right? So, yeah, at elite level right now, the clients are, the various centers, the various academies, associations that we are serving, right? Those are the clients. The end customer essentially becomes the coaches, the nutritionists, all these stakeholders who are supplying and supporting the athlete and the athletes themselves. Those become the end users, but the customer, from a invoicing perspective, is the organization we are selling to, right? So Sports.f India, NCOE, whatever, right? Uh, when it comes to mid market, and we are making some inroads, we're having conversations with various states and stuff on that one. But when it comes to mid market, again, there are various programs that are run by CSR initiatives. There are various programs that are run by state governments. There are various programs run by other bodies, your association, sports association, everything, and which the core focus of these programs is talent identification and a sort of give more boost to the emerging talent that is there, right? Talent which we did not know exist, or talent which we know exists but hasn't given the boost for the emergence, right?
Mm.
In that case, again, and tying it back to what we spoke of earlier, right? So there are two parts to it. Who do you invoice? Who do you bill to? So billing essentially happens to the association, the state government, the CSR initiative.
Mhm.
uh, they don't have the resources, yes. And what's the impact of that, one may ask. So the impact of that while these top guys have nutritionists, physiotherapists, doctors, nurses assigned to them, these middle folks would not have nutritionists assigned to them, right? But they still need that advice, that critical advice, which makes a difference between the stamina in the first half of the game and the second half of the game, right? So that has to come from somewhere, and that's exactly where, tying it back to what we spoke earlier, the AI agents that we have created, the multi-agentic architecture that we've created. So there are sort of a multi-agentic single agent, if I may say so, agentic framework which works essentially only on nutrition, and which is sort of fine tuned with all the data, working with thousands of athletes, and plus all the data publicly available, of what exactly went for that incremental improvement via nutrition. All of that data put together, fine tune, using that data to fine tune the models, and then using those models in an agentic architecture to give that kind of information to the athlete or to the trainer, chief trainer, the coach, and whatever, right? Who may not be a nutritionist specialist but still has some idea of it. So giving that data to them so that they can now start including all those other aspects where the budgets were curtailed into the training of this emerging talent. As far as costing is concerned, as Rahul sir said, uh, our goal is to make the best available to the rest, which is a very cliched statement, but that's exactly what we're driving towards, right? And for that, we understand that budgets may not be there to hire a full-time person, but when it comes to technology, it's actually at fractions of the person cost. Hence, in our push to get the best to the rest, the technology plays a big factor in making sure the democratization of these the best of the things can happen at the lowest of the levels. So that's where we're building. But I hope that answers your question as to who we are
Absolutely.
killing and how do we go for it.
Absolutely. Uh, Another challenge that I foresee is as you scale up, you are covering multiple type of sports, and the nuances also change. So there would be a need for customization. So how do you strike balance between customization versus standardization? Because I saw it on the website. You have
Sure.
mentioned that want your coffee served, or you want to roast your own coffee. So, uh,
Yeah.
I mean, how do you balance both these things?
Sure. So actually think of it this way, when you talk about any sports, right? They're going to be in a bigger, at a higher 30,000 feet level. There are going to be three parts to it, right? One is going to be your sports science, sports. Then it's going to have sports medicine. Then your training, coaching, development, all the development and strengthening, conditioning, and everything, right? So these are three basic pillars on which any sports is going to ride upon, right? Now, if you look at the coaching and this athlete development part, so with the skill development, muscle development for a particular motion, all of that would always have a lot of focus on the sport, right? So it'll be very different for an archer and very different for a basketball player and very different for a football player, right? Because that's sports skill training, that's sports strength and development, all of that has to happen. Now, if you look at science and medicine and all that other parts, those would pretty much still be the same, right? Because those are about anatomy, body, your biomedical, biomechanical stuff, right? So the human body does not change, right? If you're a basketball player, you still have the same number of bones and muscles as an archer. So that's not going to change. There will be added elements of sport in it, but they'll pretty much be, static throughout all the sports spectrum. So that's where we've come up with this methodology of having these as horizontals. So your science, medicine, analysis, all of that is horizontals, and the sports is a vertical that weaves through this horizontal, right? So when it weaves through, essentially it gives some element of the sport to each of the streams, but the streams remain the same, right? And that's how we are able to scale while being custom enough. So an example of that is amongst all the customers that we're serving right now, we cover close to about 13 sports, right? uh, the physiotherapy model has pretty much remained the same. Some additional stuff has been added for each sport, but that's like if there are 100 things in that, one or two things additional for a sport has been added to it. But physiotherapy has pretty much remained the same. But when it comes to coaching, skill coaching, those templates, those plans, those way of training is entirely different for each of the sports. So we've sort of containerized the problem of customization onto a single stack while retaining the other parts as a consistent rhythm throughout the product journey. So that has enabled us to transform, become custom, become more problem focused for a particular sport while still being generic enough to scale at a rapid pace.
Understood.
The
Uh,
customization, Priya, also comes in from, of course, one, the sport, and then there is a lower level of customization which each, let's say, coach or each person who is giving that particular skill also looks at giving that skill in a particular way. That's the reason, that's how you differentiate between one coach and another, right? In fact, that skill level remains same, the horizontals remain same, the vertical problem statement remains same for each sport. but there could be some tweaks that may come in for each let's say association or a coach, because that particular academy, that particular institute looks at preparing their athletes in one particular way. And this is where again the tweaking can happen for them, and so that it remains that the tool or the solution is not the primary thing, right? The solution has to shape up in the way that these particular coaches or this particular institute is delivering the coaching. It always has to come in as a supporting role and not something which is cast in stone and everyone has to follow this particular process. So there is a layer of personalization. It happens for them. The technology remains very similar. It remains same because then that layer does not change. The knowledge part of it, as we mentioned, the knowledge part of it can again change a bit of it. The way you would like to understand a particular person's data could be different from how I would like to understand. Those are the small tweakings that can happen.
Got it. Well, I think this is my final question before we wrap up. I want to ask this to both of you. How has been your journey of entrepreneurship? So, how are you liking it? How do you compare it against the jobs that you have had before, and that too at a very senior level? Is it worth at all to take the risk and the trouble?
Also, why don't you start?
Oh, it'll be a longer story for me then.
Sure,
So
sure.
it's delightful uh, if it is stressful and you enjoy that particular stress, right? So I've enjoyed this particular stress. The only qualm, or if I would say or something, if I could put it like my wisdom by the hindsight would be that why I should not have started earlier that than when I what I did. So transition from a corporate role to a startup role, it's a very different thing, right? So these are two different worlds. Uh, the transition for at least first 6 months for me were a bit difficult. I was still wearing my enterprise corporate hat while running an enterprise shop. And there is a lot of conflict in that because in the enterprise world, it is something which is where a lot of things are served on the plate, right? The enablement happens by default. And in the startup world, everything has to be done from scratch. Have to create that plate first, where then again, I myself have to serve not only others, then later myself. But the first thing is to create that plate, which in the enterprise world is served by default. And we take a lot of things we take a lot of things as given in the enterprise world, right? Startup doesn't work that way. So one that yes, there is a lot of learning that needs to be done. But even before that, Priya, I would say there is a lot of unlearning that needs to be done. So the 6 months that I'm talking about, I had to get into a lot of unlearning phase, and those were painful. That was a shocker. Being, if I could say, that being enabled to sit in a corner office with glass doors and then doing the running around, finding and getting into the technology of things, working at the lowest level of fine tuning, creating, writing the code, etc., to then running around for sales. it's a huge different experience, but it's such an experience that that I would say that it opens a lot of avenues. It opens the thought process. It opens the possibilities. And if at all enterprises have to hire people, uh, even at for a leadership role, today I would very comfortably and emphatically say that a person who may have spent 15 to 20 years working in the enterprise ladder going up, uh, rather than that person, someone who would have had would have a startup journey of 5 years, right? I would say the startup person would be better fit for a leadership role as compared to someone who has spent 20 years in the enterprise journey. And because the various possibilities of doing different things would be a lot much clearer to a entrepreneur as compared to the enterprise person. Plus, this is a beautiful time to be an entrepreneur. It's a wonderful time to be an entrepreneur because there is so much of enablement. The policies are very friendly for entrepreneurship. Government support is there. There is enablement for startups. The enterprises are ready to talk and look at or give space to the startups to test and to validate their products with them, right? So that's a government push, as well as there is a lot of openness because they see that the kind of innovation that the startups can bring in is not something which can be done internally in-house because of the way the enterprise structures are. Hence, anyone who is getting into startups or entrepreneurship, it's a beautiful time, and especially for people who would have done somewhat of enterprise journey, maybe 3 4 years 5 years, because then they understand what that business is, how the customers work, what is required, how the teams can be handled. Then they are in that particular sweet spot where they can create a business out of it, right? Because finally, startup is not about technology. Startup is not about creating something which you can name as your own. But startup is all about building a business and building a business which can then take things forward. I'll not say building a business for lifetime or something, but because that's not what a startup never is. There is always an exit policy for a startup, but they would understand how to build something which can generate business, and that's what is required for a startup, right, Kshitij?
Uh, so Rahul Bhai has covered a lot of things. Just to add to that, and just for the value of your listeners, Priya, as you said, a lot of your ELI members have, taken up entrepreneurship, been featured in a lot of prestigious things, and done great stuff. So hoping that somebody who's listening to this one is gonna do similar stuff or better. Uh, Two three things, did the two three quotes, and before I let me just tell you listeners. So I have been a entrepreneur intrapreneur multiple times. Funny story, my first entrepreneurial stint was when I tried to sell my Tom and Jerry cassettes to kids in my school because I had 20 of them and nobody had any. So I sold them for $60 in 1999, 2000, something like that. I must have been ninth or 10th class, whatever it was. No, I was in 8th class. Yeah. So did that. So you can call it a baniya shop, you can call it entrepreneurship, whatever it is. It doesn't make a difference. Dhanda aana chahiye, paisa aana chahiye, as Rahul Bhai said, right? Uh, so my actual first stint with entrepreneurship was when I started my own K-12 education institute in Delhi. That was back in 2009, 2008 time frame. Uh, And post that, I went for my MBA and everything, and then came out and joined Continental Hospitals. That could be termed as an entrepreneurial stint because I was one of the first employees, 600-bed hospital, one of the largest single standing hospital in Southeast Asia. And I was reporting directly to the director and the chairperson, taking care of business development, marketing, sales, finance, negotiations with payers, insurance companies, all that stuff. So sort of a jack of all kind of a role, right? Post which I joined Tech Mahindra, where my boss at that time, Mr. Atul Kanwar, Lavent Woods, great guy. So he essentially gave a very good uh, very good target. He said, very simply, do two things. This is a vertical. Increase the revenue and increase the profitability of the vertical together simultaneously. I said, okay, but how do
Mm.
I do this? One can go up, the other person, somebody has to take a hit for the other, right? It's the equation moves like this. You're telling me to move the equation like this. Like, yeah, do it. Otherwise, you're man buddhi balak. And I'm like, okay, fine, cool. That hurt. Let me do that. So that's another entrepreneurial stunt. And then, Digital Darwin. In all of this, my key learning has been this. Uh, you never fail. You know, and it's not a philosophical thing. You never fail to let them keep trying. No, no, no. Even when you fail, because even when you fail, even when you're not able to achieve the target to 100%, you may have been able to achieve the target 90, 80, 70, whatever is the parameter, you would have come out learning so much. And it is not sectoral knowledge. So the knowledge that I took during selling of those video cassettes of Tom and Jerry was not sectoral. I used that knowledge to gain admissions for my school when I was 20 years old, 21 years old, right? And I used that knowledge to gain businesses for my hospital from corporate clients when I was 25. Use that knowledge to gain the revenue growth required for Tech Mahindra Healthcare Life Sciences vertical when I was 27, right? So it never changed. It's not sectoral. Knowledge is something that can be applied across. And same thing I'm trying to implement now in Digital Darwin, right? So these are things which you can pick them and take them across industries, across sectors, across various levels of seniority or juniority, whatever you want to call it, right? So you don't fail. You would always come out gaining something. That's one. Second, yes, ventures can fail. So what? Try again. Life is long, man. Colonel Sanders created his KFC at 55, 56, whatever, man. McDonald's, the guy behind the franchise idea, got their idea from selling milkshakes at what, 52, 49, or 55, whatever it was, right? So, age is just a number. Keep trying. Something will click. They both died billionaires,
Mm.
right? Uh, your Warren Buffett, I think, made his first million around 35, 37, or
Yeah.
32, something like that, right? In his 30s. So, is a billionaire multiple times over, man. So keep trying. As far as whether you're in the right market at the right time with the right product, now that is a holy trinity.
Mhm.
If anybody tells you that I know the answer of that holy trinity, they're lying to themselves because nobody knows their answer. Because while we all hate to admit it, there's a K factor to it, right? There's a luck
Mm.
factor to it. Hitting all three simultaneously happens very rarely. At best, and this is something which one of my ISB professors of strategy taught us, that when you look at life, look at it in triangle, and at best you can hit two vertices at one point in time. So you could be in the right industry at the right time with the wrong product. You'll
Mm.
survive. You'll do well. You could be with the right product in the wrong industry but at the right time. You will still do well. As long as you're hitting two of the triangles, you will do well. And how do you know that you're hitting the two of the triangles? Whatever you're building, number one, you got some client within the industry you're building it for, and then you start seeing people utilizing the same thing in other industries, the same goddamn thing in other industries. I'm like, यार ये भी तो बिक रहा है. So maybe क्योंकि यहाँ पे PMF मिल गया मुझे but revenue नहीं मिल रहा, maybe I have the right product in the wrong industry. So let me switch over, and that's where pivots happen, right? And that's the beauty of everything. It's not fly by night operation. You are not gonna become a millionaire. You start a company today, tomorrow you're gonna be a unicorn. Not gonna happen, bro. It is gonna take time. It is a concentrated, deliberate, very diligent effort day after day. There
Mhm.
are gonna be days when you feel bad. There are gonna be days when you feel low. There are gonna be days when you feel very happy. And that's one of my favorite poems. Ernest Hemingway. Don't pat yourself too hard when you're feeling happy, and don't berate yourself down when you're feeling sad. Everything comes, everything goes. It happens. कल देखते हैं, कल अलग होगा. आज बहुत खुश हो, कल अलग होगा. आज बहुत दुखी हो, कल अलग होगा. देखते ना यार, चलना शुरू करो.
Correct. I think on this note, we will close the session. Thanks for joining us, Rahul and Sitish. It was a pleasure to have you on our platform, and I think you are doing a great job at being a technology enabler for the athletes in our country. And when India goes on to win more accolade in Olympics or any other sports, I think you should surely be the among the ones who made it possible. Thanks for joining us, and my best wishes for the venture that you are building.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much,
Priya,
Priya. Loved the
and
interaction.
yep, and wish all the best to your listeners.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Kshitij,
Priya. Bye
and
bye.
thank you,
Take
Rahul.
care.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.